Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Day in Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So we worked on about 4 or 5 different cars today in the shop here, so let me jump right in and talk about what happened here more or less in chronicle order. So Rafa started out this morning on the red Buggy here, and as you can see, he got the dash pretty much finished up here. So he put in the trim there, like the owner wanted it. Really, really looks good. Very happy with how that's coming out. Kind of a pain in the butt because we had to basically like custom make these trim pieces, and by that what I mean is basically take the Beetle trim pieces and cut them to length, but we didn't want to just cut them to length and leave the ends open. So basically, I don't know if you'll even be able to see this, but what Rafa did was it made little end caps for him there. You can see where that is closed off. So kind of painstaking, but we thought that would just look real bad with that just open. The original ones are of course kind of formed closed, but we don't really have the tooling to do that. So yeah, he made these little end caps for both of these to make them nice and clean looking. So, because that's kind of how we roll around here. Details. No one may ever notice, but if they do, they'll be like, oh, that looks really good. Anyway, so he did that and installed the gas gauge. This is an original gas gauge that we bought since the aftermarket one didn't really have the adjustability in it that we needed to accommodate the fact that the gas tank sits at a pretty steep angle in these, and with the aftermarket gauge we weren't able to there's an adjustment on the back of these gauges where you can kind of fine tune where the needle sits, and with the aftermarket one we couldn't get it to go below about a quarter tank when the tank was actually empty, again owing to the angle that the tank sits at. So it's at least it shows empty when there's no gas in the tank. It may be that you have to fill it up a ways before that comes up off empty. I'm not sure, but we definitely wanted it to say empty when it's empty, or thinks it's empty at least. So yeah, there's that. The other thing was putting the turn signal stock on. So we got that on and got it all wired up and stuff up underneath there. This is the Impy wiring harness that we bought that's made for, buggies, sand rails, whatever, kind of simplistic cars. It didn't really have any accommodations in it to put in turn signals as far as, no wires for wiring in the flasher or anything like that. So Rafa pretty much just wired all that in on his own. He's basically got all the wiring diagrams for every Volkswagen ever made committed to memory. So he just goes in and starts, cutting wires, and next thing you know, you got turn signals wired in. So that happened today on this guy. This one, I think we did not do anything today on it per se. So let's talk about the bus here, because this was also going on this morning. So what I did this morning was a couple things on this. One is I got the very hard to find hatch mechanism, the hatch latch mechanism. So it turns out that the mechanism on 60, I think it's 64 to 67 bus is those 3 or so years only. And as it turns out, it also was used apparently on some Volkswagen Golfs. So I did because this thing is like impossible to find. So I did a search on eBay, and I found somebody selling one for a Golf. Part numbers matched, it looked right, so I went ahead and bought it, and guess what? It was right. So sometimes you get lucky. So there she is. And it's this weird kind of triangle looking one with 3 screws on it. The only thing is that took me approximately forever to put in, and that I think is because this is a aftermarket reproduction rear hatch, and the 3 holes, so you got one up front and then these 2 here, they just didn't really line up well at all with the mechanism, and it was off quite a bit. And it wasn't that the mechanism itself, this thing wasn't like bent or deformed or anything. It's just really these hatches, just, I don't know, like, come on, people, put the damn holes in the right place. This isn't rocket science. So I kept basically like the holes on the latch itself, I just kind of kept stretching them in the direction they needed to go. So these two the holes needed to be stretched that way. And then this one, the hole needed to be stretched in that way. So just kind of kept stretching the holes with a rotary file a little bit at a time until I was able to actually, get these screws in and then, kind of put some force on the thing and get that screw in. And then it pulled up really nicely after that. But yeah, it wasn't even close to bolting up initially. So it took some messing around to get it to work. But yeah, it works great now. And then adjusted the striker plate and lubed things up a bit. And now, there we go, latched, and then, unlatched. So, yep, quite a bit of work there, but it's working really nice now. So very happy with that. The other thing that I did was a little trick that we do is, so this bus originally was a 6-volt bus, which means it would have the little 6-volt battery with the cover on the top. But this bus being a hot rod, look at that, that's a hot rod if I've ever seen one, uses a 12-volt battery. And so what we do is we take the battery straps that are made for 6-volt batteries, and if you use it on a 12-volt battery like this, the strap is actually too long by, like maybe 1.5 inches or so. So we actually cut the strap on the other end and then re-weld it back together to the correct length. And then you've got a cool, correct looking strap on it. Of course there's no lid on this battery, but the strap is cool and looks good, and these work really well. And it's better than putting some like auto parts store stupid battery hold down strap on it, those ones with wing nuts on them or whatever. No, that's not how we do things. So now it's got this proper latch mechanism here if you ever need to take the battery out, and it ain't going nowhere. So yeah, little cool detail there. So did that, and then still need to put the rear apron on this car. I might do that tomorrow, we'll see. So the other thing on this one is the owner really wants to run bus wheels on it, 15-inch bus or 14 if possible. But they are just not cooperating with the disc brake kit that we have on the back of here, which I was told should fit, but it doesn't. So Rafa and I spent probably an hour or so playing around with like spacers and stuff like that with a 15-inch original bus wheel. And we think we might have a plan to get it to clear the caliper. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that one. Hopefully we can get those wheels to work, because the owner just isn't really crazy about the way Beetle smoothies look on buses. They would fit right on and solve all the problems with the clearance on the back here, the back wheels, but he really wants bus wheels on it. So we're going to do our best to make it happen. So messed around with that for a while. So this happened yesterday, and I didn't show it because I think the car was outside still when I filmed the video. But yeah, the carpet, custom handmade carpet kit is in the Cowlick car, and man, did it come out good. Look at that. So around these speaker pods and stuff like that, edging all around all the edges. Came out really, really good. Little rubber mat there to keep, your heel or whatever from wearing through the carpet. And in the back there, yeah, so there you go, looking good. And our upholstery guy right now is just finishing up the carpet on the backrest of the back seat, so that'll be done pretty soon. And then we have a package tray deal that's going to go here that has a couple 6x9 speakers in it, so that's already done. So you won't even see this area back in here, but it's going to look really good even though you don't see it. But yeah, so this car is coming right along. The other thing that I did later in the day was worked on plumbing the fuel system on the killer fuel injected bus here. So I went ahead and plumbed in the fuel pressure regulator, which you can see is over there. And the way I plumbed it in was, so this is the return here. So this is the fuel comes in on that fuel rail over there on toward me, runs through that fuel rail, out the back of that fuel rail or towards the front of the car, across the back of the fan shroud, and then into the far side of this fuel rail, and then out this fuel rail, and then into the regulator, and then this hose here goes back to the tank. So that's your return. So kind of playing around with how to run the fuel lines here, and they weren't really going to route the way I wanted because it was going to be a little bit too tight of a bend going from the fuel rail to the regulator. So what I actually did was I made a nice little loop here, and the thing that I like about that is it kind of mirrors the loop that we've got on the other side that's for the idle air control. So kind of cool. I'm liking to try and keep things kind of symmetric here, so you can see this side and this side look quite a bit alike, which is kind of fun. So yeah, so there you go. This fuel line here, which comes from the tank, I just drilled a hole in here now. I need to open the hole up a little bit more and put a grommet in there. But yeah, I went ahead and added a hole there. So this fuel line is going to come more or less straight here to the inlet of the fuel rail here. So once I get a proper grommet, I'll again open that hole up to correspond to the grommet, and then this will be connected. And I think I'm probably going to do the same on this side where the fuel return line goes through. I'm going to put probably a hole back here somewhere. So it'll kind of again mirror that side over there. And then this one still needs to be connected on the fuel tank side. It's just kind of back in there for now. But anyway, yeah, so making some progress here. Again, just trying to keep these projects moving forward here. There's plenty of work to do around here. So yeah, I think, like I said, today we worked on 4 or 5 different cars. Oh, I almost forgot the Baja bug. Worked on that one today too. So I mentioned before that the owner had supplied a fuel gauge and a fuel sender. And it turns out the fuel sender that he had was not actually compatible with the fuel gauge that he had. And so I bought the correct fuel sender, which is a VDO unit. I got that from Moore Parts here in Orange County. And this fuel sender, I almost wish that I had filmed this video when this fuel sender was still out. But, you know, I wanted to get this done. But this thing is killer. It is totally adjustable. It can accommodate, I think, from like a 24-inch deep tank down to like, I don't know, maybe a 5 or 6 inch deep tank by adjusting and cutting a few different bits and pieces in there. It's kind of like a kit where you put this thing together based on the dimensions of your tank. So really, really cool. And it seems to work really well. So that problem is solved. This car has what should be now a accurate fuel gauge, which is always good. So that was the other thing that happened today. So yeah, worked on lots of projects today. Keep them all moving in the right direction. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.